Hey everyone, Mike here, and in this clip we're going to pitch the Asus ZenBook UX301 LA against the Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro. Which one is the better pick between the two? Well, tag along for the next few minutes and you'll find out. From starters though, it's important to say that these two devices are some of the best 14-inch ultrabooks of the moment. They both offer high-quality touchscreens, they are more or less similarly sized, and both pack Intel Haswell hardware. However, on a first look, the two are miles apart. On one side we have the Asus ZenBook with a Gorilla Glass covered body available in white or blue, while on the other there's the Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro with a simpler metallic case available in orange or grey. In other words, there's a stylish option next to a more practical one. And that's because the glass on the UX301 LA, no matter how slick it looks, catches smudges, dust and fingerprints in merely seconds and is a complete pain to keep clean. The rubbery finishing on the Lenovo is more permissive. That aside, the Yoga 2 Pro is a convertible ultrabook as its screen flips all the way back to 360 degrees, allowing you to use the device as a standard laptop, as a tablet or several other things in between. The ZenBook also packs a touchscreen covered in Gorilla Glass just like the Lenovo, but with a fixed position similar to what we're used to from older laptops. And that's why the Yoga is a far more versatile device than the UX301 LA and is more comfortable to use in more situations. And there are a few other aspects that make the Yoga a more practical device in my opinion. For instance, the lid cover is stronger and does not bend as much when pressed like on the ZenBook. Then, the palm rest is covered in a soft rubbery plastic on the Lenovo, while Asus uses a matte glass surface for this area. Again, Asus went the fancy way here, while Lenovo stick with the simple approach. I also have to mention the sharp edges on the ZenBook, especially annoying on the rather tall front lip, which simply cuts into your wrist when having the device on a desk, something I don't have to worry about on the Lenovo. And last but not least, we have the cooling systems. The UX301 LA draws air from the belly and blows it away through the hinge towards the user and the screen. The Yoga 2 Pro draws air from the back and blows it away also on the back, away from the user. And that in my opinion is a far smarter solution. Of course, there are areas where the ZenBook is a notch over the Yoga. For instance, there are two USB 3.0 ports on the UX301 LA and a mini DisplayPort connector, while the Lenovo only offers one USB 3.0 and one USB 2.0 slot. On top of that, Asus also bundles the ZenBook with a few useful adapters that you'll have to pay for on the Yoga. There's also a larger trackpad on the ZenBook. In fact, both laptops feature smooth glass clickpads and both work fine most of the time and support gestures, but the one on the Yoga is rather cramped for a 13-inch laptop. And if we're here, I should also mention the keyboard. The two manufacturers went for somewhat different approaches and layouts, as you can see from here. Lenovo's one is a bit weirder, due to the inverted F keys and the extra row of keys towards the right past the Enter and Backspace keys. On top of that, the keys on the Yoga don't travel deep enough into the frame to ensure the right amount of feedback, that's why it's going to take a while to get used to this keyboard. So all in all, while both keyboards are alright, with nicely spaced and sized illuminated keys, if I were to choose between these two laptops based on keyboards alone, my money would go towards the Asus. But there are many other important aspects to consider. Among them, there's the screen. As I mentioned before, both these ultrabooks pack 13.3-inch displays, but all the similarities between them end here. Asus picked a 2560 by 1440 pixel IGZO panel for their device, sharp, bright and capable of displaying accurate colors. Lenovo went for a higher resolution 3200 by 1800 pixel IPS panel with a Pentile matrix. As a result, the Yoga 2 Pro is not as bright, but displays deeper blacks than the ZenBook and has some color painting problems, especially with the yellows on energy-saving power modes. You'll find out more about this in the written comparison on Ultrabook Review. I'll have the link for you in the description. Aside from this, there's another thing to consider: scaling. You're not going to be able to use these screens at native resolution without scaling up the fonts. However, while most Windows 8.1 interfaces scale up properly, that can't be said about many of the third-party pieces of software, so you'll have to deal with minuscule buttons and fonts on these two from time to time, mostly on the classic desktop mode. In time, these issues should be addressed, but for now, scaling quirks are something you need to be aware of when shopping for Windows laptops with high-density displays. Okay, all this being said, we should turn our attention on the hardware and specs. Both these laptops bundle Intel Haswell hardware platforms, with SSD storage and up to 8GB of RAM. Upgrade possibilities are extremely limited in both cases, so make sure to get what you need from starters. However, Asus offers a top-tier configuration for their ZenBook, with a more powerful Intel 28W processor and more capable Intel HD 5100 graphics, on top of all the other configurations available on both series. That makes the UX301 LA more interesting if speed and performances are what you need from your Ultrabook, if you plan to edit photos and videos, or maybe even run some games on an under 3-pound laptop. You can do all those things on the most powerful Yoga as well, but not as fast as on the top ZenBook. Of course, given the more powerful hardware, it comes to no surprise that the ZenBook runs hotter and noisier than the Yoga 2 Pro. The underbelly and the area on top of the keyboard and just below the screen tend to get hot on the UX301 LA when pushing the device, while on the Lenovo the areas around the cooling grills get merely warm and the fan is dead silent more often than on the Asus. However, if you decide to buy a standard configuration on the Asus as well, the temperatures and noise gap between these two lines is going to get narrower. Okay, moving on, we can't end this video without a few words about the expected battery life. In my tests, both laptops will last for around 6 hours of daily use, which includes a mix of browsing, text editing and multimedia content, with the screens at about 50%, although slightly higher on the Lenovo since the panel is dimmer. Also, I had Wi-Fi on and the power saving modes activated. However, don't forget that I've reviewed the Core i7-4558U version of the ZenBook and the Core i5-4200U version of the Yoga, which means that when having the same configurations on both these lines, the ZenBook is going to outlast the Yoga by at least several tens of minutes. Okay, that pretty much sums up this post. But when drawing the line on these two, I for one can't say that one is clearly better than the other. Both are great devices with their pros and cons. The Asus ZenBook UX301 LA for instance has the powerful hardware, the sleek glass covered body, the superior keyboard and screen plus the slightly longer battery life on its side. The Yoga 2 Pro has the more practical body and design elements plus the versatile form factor. And there's another aspect, it's way cheaper than the UX301 LA and it's already available in more countries than the ZenBook is. Back to those prices, the base version of the Asus Ultrabook with an Intel Core i5-4200U processor, 4GB of RAM and a 128GB SSD starts at around $1,400 right now, while a similarly configured Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro starts at only $1,100 and the gap gets wider with more powerful configurations. So in the end, is the ZenBook UX301 LA worth at least $300 over the Lenovo? That's for you to decide based on what you need and what you appreciate in a laptop, but I for one, as much as I like the ZenBook, consider that unless you really need a 28W hardware platform on your machine, the Yoga 2 Pro is the better deal for the money, despite its more numerous shortcomings. You however might think otherwise, that's why I'd love to know what would you guys pick between these two and why, so please leave your replies in the comments below and on the side in a more detailed written comparison. With that in mind, it's time to end this video. Thank you for watching it, I do hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you around soon in the next clips. Bye!